Councilor Malmus, all in favor? Carried, thank you. All right, so administration update, capital projects. If council has any questions in regards to these bylaws, building permits, capital projects update, then you're more than happy to open up the floor. So capital update projects. Any comments or questions? Councilor Malmus, go ahead.
Through the chair, for Joe on the South Squat Bridge, are they completed with the piles now? I see they're starting to do some concrete out there, so give us a short.
Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you, Councillor Malmus. Through the chair, the piles and in-stream work are completed as of February 23rd. All piles and in-stream work were completed successfully, and I'm very pleased to report back to council that through a very stressful 3-4 weeks, we did not hit a sewer or water line in the river, which has saved the project at an estimated $150,000 to $180,000. So very pleased to see that that has happened, and we've cameraed it and checked it. Pressure testing will be completed in the next couple of weeks. Lost quite a lot of sleepless nights over that one component of it. However, completed pressure testing is to be completed at the end of this week. I was sharing that information hourly and daily with our CEO on another occasions, but very glad to see that that's another successful milestone being met that keeps this project rolling ahead on budget. So very happy to bring that forward to council.
Good job.
Thanks, Joe. Mr. Parliament, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of updates quickly on the Sicamous Field Center. The expression of interest RFP will be going out very shortly. This is us going to the marketplace, asking any proponent who has rural healthcare, First Nations, construction experience in bringing together this concept that we're calling this regional facility, the Sicamous Field Center. We expect roughly a 45-day turnaround and appoint a proponent and interview, et cetera, within 2 months. And also on the biomass facility, tomorrow there will be a joint press release by both the federal government and the provincial government. It's a joint release with the community of, escapes me, not Chilliwack, Castlegar. Castlegar also received funding for a similar facility in the district of Sicamous. This is for the Clean BC component of the biomass, not the Natural Resources Canada component. In our case at Sicamous, there's 2 projects. Project 1 is funded by Clean BC, which is announced tomorrow. And project 2 is the actual boiler itself, funded by NR Canada. So tomorrow's press release focuses on the Clean BC funding component of both the federal and the provincial and the DOS on project 1, which is distribution center at the Sicamous Industrial Park. So that will be announced tomorrow.
Thank you. All right. Any other comments? Projects. All right, we'll move on. Bylaw report this summer. John, you want to give us a brief update if you were here? Thank you.
Evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. A brief summary of what we've had 16 official complaints for the month of February. The one that I'd like to bring your attention to is the complaint about rats. That file has since been closed. I did inspections on 5 properties in the immediate vicinity of where the complaint originated from. The owner of the property that the complaint originated from had taken care of the problem himself by dispatching rats, but I just went out and proactively checked his neighbors to make sure that there was no further infestation in that area. Since then, however, we received 2 more complaints on rats in other areas of town. I have scheduled some inspections to commence this week, looking for their habitat and other signs and symptoms. Other than that, I've added an extra little section to my report in regards to student staff patrols. This is when I'm out and about in the community in the evenings. or during the day, you know, focusing more on traffic enforcement at the moment, but definitely talking to several people about dogs off leashes and ensuring that feces is being taken care of properly.
All right, thanks, John. Any comments or questions for our bylaw enforcement officer? No, I'm hearing none from council, so thanks very much for that report.
Thank you, Mr. Council.
All right, building permit summary. Okay, who wants to give us a report on this, just to let us know what's going on? Self-explanatory. Ellen?
Sure. Permits full residential in the month of February, and they're up from last year.
Double.
I believe they're in the Hemlock subdivision. Kelly. Yes, and here's the details.
They're up substantially from last year in February for sure, right? Okay. Any comments or questions on the building report? Okay, moving on. All right, strategic priorities, portfolio updates, recommendation committee. Recommend that council adopt the revised strategic priorities as presented this 10th day of March 2021 with councilor. I could give a recommendation. I'm going to give a recommendation here, and then, but councilors, you can change my recommendation. So I was going to recommend that Councilor Malmus be assigned as the primary council for the municipal boundary expansion priority, and Councilor Bushel as the alternate. That is my recommendation. Do I have any comments from the stage, Councilor Malmus?
I'm getting text messages from people, they can't get it, see.
Can they email me directly? You just give them my email and I'll assist them.
No, I can't see it.
If they email me directly, I'll send them the link.
Phaedra, does it give you a list of who's on it?
I've got 3 attendees. I've got Jana, Ken, and Brian Tagore.
Brian should, can you text Brian and see if he can hear us?
I haven't received any chat stating that they're having any issues.
I can.
It's dead.
I'm trying to log in from this computer as well, so I.
It's Deb. Deb is struggling. I will.
Who are the two people you're recommending, sorry?
So the reason I recommended Councilor Malmus, because he's now working on the rail trail governance committee and working on the municipal boundary conversations that are happening with some of the people that are recommending it. And also Councilor Bushel has been working with Councilor Malmus on this as well. So those are the two that I recommend as far as strategic priorities. I haven't talked to either one of these councilors. I just have this on the agenda right now. I should have probably got confirmation from them first. But if the council wants to recommend other councilors or want to put their name forward, I'm not quite sure what the process will be when it comes to having this this resolution put into place. Go ahead.
Yeah, through the chair, I just wanted to point out that also staff will be seeking confirmation of the 3rd strategic priority that incorporated the respite services. So it's actually a somewhat new strategic priority there, and I just want to confirm that those are the councils that also want to stay attached to that strategic priority. So I've been looking for confirmation from staff or from council tonight on that. And if you give me 1 second, sorry, I'm got too many tabs open at the moment. In that combination for the 3rd strategic priority, that used to be the development of a Shishwap Healing Center and a separate one for daycare, adult day services. It's now development of a community health center and provision of local health and wellness services. And then just a little brief summary on that. I'll just read out what I had done to compile that. Is that this follows the announcement of 5.9 million from the Rural and Northern Communities Fund and the successful recruitment of an international medical graduate to provide care as a family physician. The district will continue to recruit physicians and other healthcare providers as part of the establishment of a community health center. So this is an update of that strategic priority. So I really am looking at confirmation from council that satisfies your desire at this time, and then also looking for councilors to assume that needs go back to expansion.
Does council want to give us some consideration and send in your request to Jennifer? Or do we just vote on this now?
Councilor Moores.
Council Walls, go ahead.
Just one other thing, Jen, to the chair, still haven't changed the rail trail support project.
We number rail trail project
Two.
support. Right, thank you, Councilor Mamas. I wanted to confirm that too, if that you were assuming as a primary council, that there was a seat on the governance advisory committee, but I wanted to check, are you assuming as a primary council on that project?
We can change primary to Councilor Malmus, and you can leave me as an alternate if
Okay,
you wish,
sure.
and then we can structure that because he's more involved now in the governance committee. So, so I'm going to ask the two councilors, will you leave your names down, Jeff?
Yeah, I don't have an issue with it. I mean, like, we're working with that anyways.
And Gordon?
Yeah, if everybody else is
Are you
okay
with that? Okay, so let's put those names in there, and if the council has any objectives, let me know right now. I hear none, I'm gonna call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Councilor Anderson, do you have a comment?
Jen, I think Malcolm and I are good with staying on the healthcare.
Yeah.
And it's the recruiting docs has come out of there, or is it still part of that portfolio?
It's still part of that portfolio, so that development of the community health center is still, I just think we'll continue to recruit physicians and other healthcare providers, and that's kind of where we move in that daycare, adult day
For sure.
services
Yeah.
aspect, because it's not just that we're looking at, but a host of, a wealth of wellness providers, so.
Yeah. We're good with that.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
So is everybody comfortable now with the strategic priorities? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. I was just wondering about the housing, what number is that there? Number 5. Anticipated length to complete. I think we can change that to pretty close here because we're working collaboratively now. We have the land dedicated or allocated, and that's out of in camera. And so it's, I guess you wouldn't call it complete, but we've met our obligation in the collaborative process with the Seniors Housing Society to provide enough land to move forward with their grant application. So I don't know, just asking council, would you consider that complete, or we wait till we sign off on the terms of reference, or how it looks, or still in progress, or?
I would ask staff.
I wouldn't say it's complete, but we're very close. I think we're gonna be in the ground hopefully in 2021, after we finish the charrette, if not no later in the spring 2022. We're basically 70–75% there. So really, I think what Councilor McKay is asking is what's the appetite of council by either putting completed or near completion?
Yeah.
I have no problem near completion. That's my opinion.
Through the chair, based on the discussions we had about the charrette, I would highly recommend that Council McKay stay with the goal. Yeah. I mean,
No, I wasn't
near
second
complete,
now or nothing.
near complete, yes, but there's still work to be done.
Yeah, so we'll instruct Jen to put near completed, is that fine with you?
Yeah, I guess what I was asking is, we only have 2 terms of reference for the anticipated length. It's multi-term or current term. So current term is like I guess we call it 2 years left, and so that's a kind of a broad. Maybe we should have multi-term or short-term, long-term, one more definition that near complete with might be another definition that we use in anticipated length.
We'll leave it in Jen's hands.
Just to be a little nail it down.
And using a little thermometer, like color it up, you know?
Well, 2 years is a broad range for, you know, yeah, we'll get there.
I'll make note on the sheet that it's
Okay.
final stages.
Near complete or something. And then,
All right, okay, so, we'll carry on from there. So being that we're in the committee, of the whole meeting, for the benefit of people that are, zooming in, we're going to ask for a councillor report and a mayor's report right at this particular time. So Councillor Bushel, you're up, councillor's report.
Thank you, through the chair. I don't have much to report other than I did a little bit of homework with the rec center. We met the staff at the rec center in regards to providing a proposal for taking over management of the rec center. So we're working on that, and staff are working real hard to put together a package. And other than that, I don't think I have much else to report. Been doing a little bit of homework with Jeff on boundary extension and the rail trail. So yeah, everything else is going good.
Good, thanks, Councillor Bushel. Councillor Anderson.
I have been doing a little work on the counselor's newsletter with the staff here. Today I attended the Shuswap Watershed Council meeting. I asked for support from not just the council, but all of the representatives on that council. And there's several people that are from different sectors to support our resolution on invasive species, as well as our resolution on making it illegal to move your watercraft from one body of water to another without decontaminating. So we will see some support from them. Just a reminder that there's still some grant funding available, and we had had a conversation in council, I think last meeting, about perhaps if grant funding isn't all used up, we should talk to some residents along the lake that do have septic systems that are leaching into the lake. Mirror Lake is our drinking source. So I understand that there's some residents over on the west side that perhaps we should reach out to and see if there's an appetite for them to apply for some funding to get their septic system operated. There was a presentation today from a gentleman representing the Adams Lake Band, and they are going to start fertilizing to encourage food in the Adams Lake to feed the fry. And the reason they're doing this is because there's not enough nutrients in that lake for the fry to get strong enough to make the trip and then make the trip back. So they're going to start to encouraging a stronger, help feed the fry to encourage a hardier fry to make its way back and forth. And the other thing is moss balls have been detected. I don't know if everybody read that, but in aquariums, people with fish aquariums are getting moss balls to put in their aquariums and are finding zebra and quagga mussels in their aquariums. The sad thing about this is people dump their aquariums in the water because they think they're doing fish a favor, because they don't want to go fish anymore. So they think that if they go fish in the lake, it's all good. But all of that they drop into the waters is really bad. So we need to send out a message, and our messaging, perhaps on our social media, is to talk about the moss balls, which people can order online. It's not even just going to aquariums. I guess the conservation officers in the past week got to 600 cat stores, and I found several of them had moss balls that had mussels in them. So, you know, one more thing that's going to slip through the cracks, trying to prevent massive catastrophe in our water system. So I just want to bring that up so everybody is aware of that and spreading the word on social media, just to make sure that, you know, if you're dumping an aquarium, not to just make sure you freeze those mussel balls for 24 hours or boil them for a minute or something. But Anyway, that's my update.
Thank you for that, Counselor Patterson. Counselor McKee.
Yeah, thank you. Attended a daycare meeting with staff and our nonprofit society, Little Barracks running daycare. And Councillor Evans, just to, now that it's up and running, just to address some fine tune some operating issues. I think we'll get those ironed out. Also attended a Zoom meeting with Evan regarding debriefing from the Dr. Jackie that was working in Beach's clinic, which in a couple months will be our community's clinic. Just to see if she had any lessons learned that we could cut from to improve it when we take over ownership. And there seemed to be a little bit of lack of communication in transition. So one of the outputs from that meeting was we're going to communicate to the public I think on a weekly basis and how that transition is coming along. And that's it. Looking forward to working with the Eagle Valley Community Seniors Housing Society, Eagle Valley Seniors Housing Society to move forward on our housing project.
Thank you, Counselor Harry.
That moss ball thing blew me away reading that. Looks like mussels can reproduce. Looks like long term anywhere there's water. Nothing else.
Counselor Ramos.
Just been working with Councilor Bushel on the rail trail Canada innovation. Reviewing our current marine bylaw with staff. And looking forward to working with people for the annexation or talk to find out what their real wants are. So I think it'll be good for Councilor Bush Alliance. It's a nice walk down the trail.
Your Counselor Evans.
Just echo what Councilor McCabe said, it's still working with the new daycare and just trying to help our community the best we can with the new service there.
So I've been working on a lot of everything, but one thing I'm going to talk about is CITIC, Southern Interior Development Initiative Trust, is now called the Economic Trust of the Southern Interior. They changed the name. And they have got now a portal that they've put on their website, in which we can now access grant money. I talked to Mr. Parliament about looking into the portal and what it might be that we might put in a grant application for. It's primarily all for the support for economic development, whether it's retention or for new businesses. And on this particular meeting, they have what's called regional advisory committees. So it's made up of about 30 different people, and that's all within the region, and that's mayors and so forth. And they're the ones that analyze the actual grant applications. So right now, about $2.5 billion is available to us, and the very first intake is the end of March 30th. So if you see anything that might be in discussion with that might fit this bill, it's fairly broad when it comes to the criteria, and it's now back on track. So I think it's definitely grant money that we can tap into. $50,000 on the smaller side of it, so anywhere from $1,000 to $50,000, and then 3 intake at about $150,000. So anyway, we'll take a look at that when the time comes. And one other thing, vaccine updates as to what's taking place with the province. They're being updated every Thursday. I attend those meetings, and the rollout is starting to progress. We have our 92-year-old father-in-law living with us, and he is now registered, so he's going to get the shot in salmon or in the near future. So the province of BC has had a lot of problems trying to get this thing to roll out when it comes to registering, but now it's pretty much on track. That's my update for now. I could talk about water now. So, Phaedra, have you got people online that might want to comment right now, or give the public a few minutes that might want to comment?
Can we just, we have a supervisor in Canada person to approve those recommendation or that recommendation before we go to
Well,
public
okay,
input?
just before we do that,
Sure. Supervisor report.
okay, recommendation that the committee of the whole now rise and report have not the recommendations from the March 10th, 2021 committees of the whole meeting be adopted if there is a resolution.
Yeah.
I need a mover on this, Counselor Evans, Counselor Moss, all in favor? Carried, thank you. And now. Yeah, so what we have now is Phaedra is,
Not seeing anybody raise a hand or,
okay.
oh, I've got two participants raising hand. Deb Heath would like to speak.
Yeah.
Hey, Deb, you're on.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
yeah, can you hear us well? I just want.
Not the best, but I'm kind of putting it right up to my ear and I'm managing, but not great. But you can hear me all right?
And we can hear you all right. We're just.
Okay.
So we've been working on trying to get this communication thing working a little bit better in chambers.
You got more work to do.
Still using the owl and so forth until we get this.
Okay.
thing.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a real quick update. So the plants have all been ordered for the Spark flower bed that we're going to put underneath the at the corner of Paradise in 97A. So it's going to be a big yellow spark. Daryl's already outlined it there, and we're going to have yellow in the middle of it and then white alyssum around that. It should look really good. We've applied for a grant for the Legion and Eagle Valley Resource Center art installation and garden. We'll find out if we get that in another week or two, I guess. We have registered for the virtual Communities in Bloom judging. So it sounds like they're going to provide us with a lot of support in terms of Zoom calls and access to their experts, but they're not going to do full evaluations this year. So we will not, it sounds like we will not be able to change our bloom status this year, but it's going to be a slam dunk next year then, because we're doing so much. But I have sent my message out to the business community and residents. The Pines Hotel has got back to me and said they're really keen on cleaning up and doing some things with their property and also sponsoring a project. And I've got them talking to Hans at the El Dorado too, since he's right next to them. I've also been hearing from some volunteers. So lots of good stuff going on.
Hey, thanks, Deb. So when we doing the community cleanup, maybe we can ask Councilor Mollis on that one more time. I just noticed at this time of the year, it seems like the town is looking a lot cleaner than it normally has at this time of the year, but we still need to do that. So Councilor Mollis.
April 24th, isn't it? That's
Yeah,
good.
April 24th.
Okay. Thanks.
So
All
we'll
right.
do this, the seniors flower beds and the cleanup that same day. And the Legion is going to provide lunch for both of the groups.
All right, thanks, Deb. Thanks for the update. Any other
Yep, you
comments?
bet.
Okay. Anyone else?
Nobody else has raised their hands.
Okay, so we're gonna move on. So we should have a delegation lined up, Scott Gray, parking and bylaw enforcement.
I believe he was told, we're a little ahead of schedule, so I don't know if he's attending in person. And we also have a public hearing that we had given notification was going to be at 6. So perhaps the council would like to move on to staff reports and start with the 3 staff reports and come back to this delegation. Because I believe Mr. Graves was told 5:45.
Okay, so we've got the delegation lined up for 6 o'clock. Is that it?
The delegation was 5:45 and the public hearing is at 6.
Okay.
So maybe
So let's
council
start
members,
with,
staff
okay, so
reports
we'll
and
go with staff reports and then we'll come back to this. Good with that? All right, that's what we'll do. All right, so appointment of the approving officer. Recommendation that Development Service Manager Scott Beeching be appointed as the approving officer for the district of Sicamous. I need a mover on this. Councilor Moll, seconded by Councilor Bushel. Any comments or questions on that resolution? Here, call a question. All those in favor?
He did it.
Carried, thank you. Yeah,
Can I ask a question?
yeah, go ahead.
Through the chair, same thing that I asked the CAO. Exactly what does an approving officer do?
Through the chair, the approving officer is the statutory approving officer for subdivisions, so. They go to land title's office, they look for the approving officer's signature.
Thank you.
All right, moving on then, thank you, that was carried. CSRD Search and Rescue Grant Need Service Amendment Bylaw number 5827, 2021 support. Recommendation that the District of Sicamous Council support the Columbia Shuswap Regional District Search and Rescue Grant Need Service Amendment Bylaw number 5827, 2021 as presented this 10th day of March 2021. I need a mover on this. Councilor Harris, seconded by Councilor Evans. Comments or questions on that particular resolution? All right, here, so that's all the question. All those in favor? Thank you. All right, let's see. Okay, Sicamous Beach Park Improvement Project Agreement. Recommendation that the mayor be authorized to execute the contribution agreement with the province for the Sicamous Beach Park Improvement Project as presented this 10th day of March 2021. I need a mover on this. Councilor Malma, seconded by Councilor Harris. Jenny, you want to give us a quick on this?
yeah, thank you to the chair. This agreement is just the finalization of the grant that the district was awarded for the construction of the beach park improvement. So this will get back to them and the timeline.
All right, okay. Any comments or questions on this? All the question, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. All right, 2021 Fire Smart Economic Recovery Fund. Recommendation that council support a grant application for the 2021 Fire Smart Economic Recovery Fund for $150,000 for Fire Smart activities with the district of Sicamous. I need a mover. Councilor Malma, second by Councilor Anderson. Is Brett here? You want to give us a quick report on this, Brett?
Thank you, through the chair. So just a quick background on this. It's basically intended to increase wildfire resiliency and aid the community in economic recovery. So a big part of this is hiring people, and this is basically the third stream of the Community Resilience Infrastructure CRI program. They allocated $10 million for this, and we're looking for $150,000. What's really interesting is that it's finally allowing us to do some work on private lands, and actually listening to the people that are applying for these grants. This one is focused on seniors, elders, people with limited mobility, or vulnerable populations that can't do fuel mitigation themselves. And that's unusual because basically means we can work on their properties and help them get fire smart. Not something that's been available previously. It was a 50%. Not a grant, but a $500 discount basically on $1,000 worth of work. But they had to kind of do it themselves, and there were some application processes. We're still doing that with FireSmart, but this is one of the new ones. So that's for residential homes, and then I also have a farms and ranch program that they're just initiating, and spoken with the mayor about this particular program because it's more relative to him and some of the people that he operates in the circles. But that's also another area that we're looking at. A little smaller initially. This grant came in fairly late and didn't get a lot of time. It's still being worked on and get submitted on the 19th of March. So basically, it'll be a job creation program looking for 4 crew members to do fire smart work within the community. A fire smart coordinator that's going to help manage that crew, and then local fire smart representatives that will go in and do the assessments on the properties and basically set up what kind of works need to be done. Pretty interesting.
Great, thanks, Brad. Any comments or questions for Brad? All right, call the question. All those in favor? Carried. Thanks, Brad. All right, okay, we still got about 5 minutes. Okay, so CSRD amendment bylaw number 2070, High Mountain, 9851 and 9852 Old Palmerston Road, and PID 013-829-101. Recommendation that staff be directed to respond to the referral from Columbia Shuswap Regional District regarding rural Sicamous land use bylaw number 2070, and advise the Columbia Shuswap Regional District that the proposed bylaw is consistent with the district and Sicamous official community plan, and that staff be directed to advise the Columbia Shuswap Regional District and the district of Sicamous is considering undertaking studies to consider boundary extension. I need a mover on this. Councilor Mullin, seconded by Councilor Bushel. Sarah, can you give us a report, please?
Okay, thank you, Chair. So the subject property, as you guys are probably all aware, is located at High Mountain Golf Course.
Sorry, to share the screen. So people all can see.
Moment we're going to be taking a look. All right. So located at High Mountain Golf Course within electoral area of the CSRD, which is just outside the district boundaries, which you can see here in white. On Old Stalmachine Road, above Narrow Lake, roughly across from the 2 mile area. The CSRD has referred this bylaw, it's amendment bylaw number 2070 to the district of Sicamous, and that happened on October 1st. The bylaw received first reading at the CSRD regular board meeting held January 21st. Proposal is for 151 bare land strata recreational vehicle lots within proposed area 9. And to confirm that a helicopter tour business can operate on the properties currently located in area 3. The properties are currently developed as a golf course and helicopter tour business. The current zoning allows for a significant amount of housing, which will be impacted by the proposed bylaw amendment. However, based on the 2020 housing needs assessment for electoral area, this will not significantly impact housing as the current zoning provides in excess of projected growth in the area. The district's official community plan speaks to this area of the regional district and High Mountain in particular. That OCP generally supports development of the resort, recognizing that many of the regional attributes that support the district's long-term vision as a resort municipality are located in the regional district, and states that the area around High Mountain could be considered for future boundary extension or service agreements. So we've received some comments on this proposed bylaw from the fire chief and engineering technologist. Fire chief noted that it's not currently located within the protection boundary of the district. And the engineering technologist noted that the district is not directly impacted at this time from a servicing perspective. However, indicated that an increase in traffic would be expected on all Old Stalmachine Road at full build out. Portion of Old Stalmachine Road is located within the district. It's also noted that there is a covenant on the property currently that limits development so that without further upgrades to the Stalmachine Road and the intersection that comes down the highway, they can actually fully build out what the zone on this property is. Of note, the CSRD does not currently have a legal strategy. It's noted that the applicant has also applied for an amendment within the district of Sicamous, and with the intent that, sorry, I just lost my spot, with the intent that it would provide boat storage, so on the road east, so our application we're talking about today, would provide boat storage for this particular development. The district has received a petition to consider this property extension. And the district will be proceeding with public consultation before engaging in engineering. Recommendation.
All right. You open for questions? Comments or questions from Councilor McKay?
Yeah, thank you for your report. I have quite a few questions, but if I can refer to our district's report. Just gonna get back. So on our staff report, on page 2, it says that we're trying to be designated as a resort municipality. I didn't realize that we were. I understand we're a resort community, but I didn't understand it's not a strategic priority to be designated as a resort community. So this document's new from 2016, and that's one comment I had. That I didn't know we were trying to be a designated resort community. I know we're a resort community, but to have that designation is a different term. So I questioned that in the report. Also in that, under the commercial part 2, official community plan part 2, and this is a 5-year-old plan from 2016. It says it requires, section 2, requires a careful management and long-term vision if it is to be sustainable as a resort community. Go down further, sorry, I just going over my notes here. After section 3, it talks about how the road could be, the district of Sicamous could impact the intersection at Trans-Canada Highway. Well, this report is so old that that's already been addressed by MOT in their new design for Burton Bridge, that there is no direct access to both Stalmachine roads, and it means right out of Trans-Canada and then left out Sicamous Road. So we're going off an old report that has newer information that isn't relevant. And then the next paragraph, when it talks about the proposed bylaw is consistent with the OCP, and as such, it's recommended that council support the proposal. Well, yeah, it is, but a lot of other strategic priorities are also consistent with the OCP, like housing, for example. And this proposal is to take 105 dwelling sites and convert them to 151 recreation sites. So yes, this proposal supports one of our OCP strategic priorities, but it also goes against another. So there's a conflict there. And the district of Sicamous doesn't have a fully implemented strategic housing plan. So, and there's thoughts of boundaries extensions now. Again, this report said it was thought of and rejected. Well, it's back on the table now at the early stages. Not saying that we support it, it's not us, up to us to support it, it's up to a process in the provincial government and the residents, basically. So that doesn't seem to be taken into consideration. Then under legal implications, in the end of the document there, it doesn't even talk about housing implications. Like we're removing 105 dwellings. It's not our land, it's in CSRD. And really, we're just, I don't think the CSRD is even legally obligated to refer to us, if they're just doing it as a courtesy, I think. But still, I think our response should be that, is it in the best interest of, if we're looking at boundary expansion, to get rid of 105 dwelling sites in favor of 151 recreational sites?
Because that's what's being asked of us here. And, I don't know why this helicopter is mixed in with this resolution. It seems to be two separate things. One about development for housing, or removing some housing allocations for recreational allocations. I support the helicopter thing. I don't know why it's mixed in with the rezoning from housing to recreational. Thank you for your patience. If I could just do a couple more comments.
So, just for, we're dealing with the resolution here. I know you're digging into the details, but.
Well, some information that has to be
That's
presented
fine.
right now.
Just recognize the actual resolution. Don't-
Yeah, well, okay, I'll go back to the report then. That's a good point. I'll go back to the report. Some, I can get it up on the screen here, my thing's reading slow. Under the recommendations, under the options, we have an option of, suggested options of, that consider boundaries extension. So number 2, basically, support the proposed bylaw. Number 3, no concerns with the proposed bylaw. Number 4 is no comments regarding the proposed bylaw. I think we could have some more options here for council. I think I have some concerns about if the RV sites are built, how is the sewer contained if it doesn't leach in the groundwater table and into Mare Lake, which is our intake water for our community. I think there could be a number 5 or 6 option that says possibly we support the proposal, but and we understand we don't have any authority in your regional district, but if you could please try and address some of these concerns and lay out some of those concerns that, in a boundary expansion, if it does follow all the way through, we end up being part of our district, that will impact our housing capacity by converting designated property that was originally a golf course in 2002, and in 2004 they got it out of our rural to a designation of CD1, which allows for commercial and recreational, under the guise that phase 1 of that new development would be housing 161 units. That was 14 years ago. So they moved it from a golf course designation to a mixed use designation, which includes commercial, recreational, and residential, with phase 1 being promised as 161 units of residential in phase 1, 14 years ago, which hasn't happened. So now they're changing that to instead of phase 1 being 161 units of housing to 151 RV sites. So there's a bit of a pattern here how, it transgressed from a golf course to an RV site, and at the expense of impacting potential housing. I think council could have some different options in a resolution that says we support it, but would you please consider some of our concerns? No sewage creep seeping into our groundwater and down into our lake and our water intake. No further development for RV sites because we're in the middle of a boundary, not in the middle, the early days of a boundary expansion. If we end up in our district, that we would want to apply our strategic plan towards what housing would look like in that area. And just a few concerns along that line. You know, I think we should say yes, but with some concerns attached to it, is what I'm saying, that we're losing some units for affordable housing. Basically, this proposal is a rezoning from downsizing from residential to recreational. And we are a recreational community, and that could be a good asset for us. And I appreciate the developer investing in our community, and I support that. But it has to be done in a controlled manner. And further on in documents, the CSRD refers to their housing study down in 2020, August of 2020. But that's for electoral area C and E, and specifically in electoral E, which the golf course is part of. It refers to 75 new residential homes that will be required in the next 10 years to 2032. That's their projections being in the CSRD. What if in 4 years from now, it's not even in the CSRD, it's in the district of Sicamous? I think those projections would be way higher. That land on the west side of the channel is one of the few last spots left that's not agricultural land reserve and can be used for housing. And with a mixed use and also recreational, but I don't think we're looking at the full picture here, and I don't think we have enough information in front of us, but I support it, but I think with some conditions, I would like to amend the resolution to have different options in supporting it. Sorry for the lengthy response.
Well, maybe what we should do is maybe we should table this, put this back in staff's hands after you've heard what they have to say, Scott. As you've been working with Sarah, and I can recognize, you know, some of your concerns. Councilor Momus, you're up at 6 o'clock. We have to move into a public hearing. So
Mr. Gray's here though, so Mr. Gray also has his delegation first.
okay, go ahead, Councilor Momus, and then we're going to move
Well,
on.
just really short, I think that most of the stuff that Councilor McCabe asked about is in the bylaw 2070. Recommendation number 2. The referral splats and First Nations District to Sicamous Transport Canada Interior Health. So they're just making their due diligence referral to us. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's gonna make any difference how much staff swings this around as to what we might think we want. We have not annexed it in yet. It's a golf course. It's recreational. They can do what they want today.
Yeah.
We're just on the referral list. So I don't have any objections to what they're doing. We don't have any jurisdiction. We're one organization out of a list of 15. So interior health is in there. So the septic issues will be dealt with, I assume.
No, I did one more type of time, but I did recognize with that it's just a courtesy referral that we have very little influence, but we're representing our community, and we should let them know that, you know, we might have some concerns, even though it won't have any difference in sure.
Go ahead, Scott.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for those comments. I actually wrote that CD zone bylaw 13 years ago, and I remember coming to the old office down the road and sitting down with staff and discussing it. And when you mentioned when Sarah mentioned the covenant, I remember, yeah, that was the big thing. Sicamous wanted that covenant to have that bridge improvement. So it's interesting how that bridge improvement is happening. And I've known to go forward. I should have forsake with helicopter landing in the CD zone, I guess. I think they're all like great comments, and I hope it's not more than a courtesy. But when I did get a phone call from Ken congratulating me on getting this job, I said, "Oh yeah, I'm working on this high mountain thing." So this one keeps coming up, and yeah, I think the comments that we can definitely incorporate some of those things into future comments. Yeah, I think they want to know, recommend approval. recommend approval with conditions, interest unaffected, or recommend non-approval. But yeah, it's up to council to add those conditions. I think those are all needed ones.
Yeah, go ahead, Gordon.
Through the chair, yeah, thanks very much. All good points, Malcolm and Jeff and Scott. The 163 page report has lots of information in it. It does call for a community sewer system, so they are, going to have their own community sewer system. And this is just part of the development of that golf course. It is going to have housing on it. This is just a little section. It's going to be the driving range is going to be just for RVs. So it's, I mean, I don't like to see it being held up for a whole bunch of, conditions. If, I think they probably wait for an answer if they're sitting at third reading. I think they're sitting at third reading. That we should try to get moving this forward myself.
So I'm just looking at this resolution and it says the land use bylaw halfway through the first paragraph. And advise the Columbia Shuswap Regional District that the proposed bylaw is consistent with the district of Sicamous official community plan. So I mean, this is work in progress, obviously. So that's what we're trying to move this thing forward. So I don't have a problem with this resolution based on staff recommendation.
Yeah.
So any other comments on this? But I'm going to call a question on it. Okay. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you for that, Sarah. All right, we're going to go back now to the delegations. I believe we have Mr. Scott Gray, parking and bylaw enforcement. Is that the gentleman that's over there?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll move.
Scott, you're up.
Scott, you're up.
Yeah, Jen.
You might want to remind everyone just to shout out as loud as they can, because they're not.
Everybody,
Yeah, I know.
Go ahead, sir.
Nice and loud.
You want to have a conversation around parking and bylaw? You're up.
This last summer, we encountered a few issues that are regarding parking bylaw. First one was down at the main dock on Main Street. The boats are kind of staying overnight all the time there. It was 5 or 6 all summer that were parked there. Nobody's doing anything about it. I just feel that, it's not right. I'm paying the mortgage, just like, everybody else is. And these people are taking advantage of our town. I like to talk to one person down there. And the guy just basically said, well, it's never enforced. I'm going to park there as long as I can park. That's one instance. Dragon boat area there where the dragon boat shack is there, the parking along there all summer long was filled up. It says no overnight parking. That's a lot of revenue this town is missing out on. Plus, the businesses in town should be able to, accommodate them for they're losing money too. There's a car that was parked for 2 months over right across from the Woodwood dog, whatever the thing is. I don't agree with that. Now we'll come to the winter. Sleds. People with sleds, they're parking all over this town. A lot right around these mountains. They are in they're in towaway zones. They are in just on the sidewalks. They park on the sidewalks. I just don't see why we can't get control of these guys doing it. They're there all the time. The fines, I saw a fine on a guy's truck. $50. You pay it by a certain time, it's $10. I can't go to McDonald's for $10. These guys have $200,000, $100,000 rate parked, and they don't even care about us. it's a slap in our face what they're doing. Night after night, they keep going on with this. There's no patrolling, there's nobody taking their cars away, towing aways on, nothing. I'd like to see the town take a look at their bylaw structure. Just this one particular parking has not been addressed since 2010. $50 fine for parking. That should be way more. $10 if you pay it early, that's a slap. I can see why people are doing it, because they can. I'd like to see fines at $250 on the first offense. $50 if you pay it. And on the second offense, second night, if they leave them there, I think it should double, just like they do on the highways and everywhere else. We are a resort town, but guess what? So is Vernon, and so is Kelowna, and they don't take any of that. I just got a fine in Vernon because I put my money in the wall. The parking. I had to pay. That part there, the parking. I know the town likes revenue. My neighbor has a dog, just moved in. Into the town. There's no dog license fees, nothing. So we're missing out on revenue through this town. I would like to extend that revenue to the dog and cat license. There's a lot of cats out there, way more than we need in town. The dogs I see are on a leash, the cats are running around. And there's one particular place across from Blondie's, there's 6 or 7 out there every day in the lawn. I don't know who's it is, I don't care. But my dog doesn't do anything in anybody else's yard. My yard, I don't have a dog with a cat, and I can smell them, and I have to clean up after. That's the cats. I propose that this town should have a licensing, some kind of licensing for dogs and cats. My proposal. I had a story here. Here's another one here. I was walking along 97A with my wife. Here's this lady. You know those nice dog bags that you guys give out for the dogs and the crap? This lady is sweeping them, putting them in her purse. I said, oh, your dog must have a problem. She says, no, not really. Good story. She says, I take them back to Alberta. I don't have paper bags. And they're better bags than I can buy in Alberta. I thought, well, that was interesting. I don't have a dog or a cat. I got my tax dollars are going towards these bags. So I figured that if you have a passport and a dog, I love in this town, that they can pay for the bags. My tax dollars should not pay for dog bags. And that's, there was a couple more incidences on that particular subject that were the same. People love our bags, period.
Scott,
Yes,
how much longer have we got?
I'm done. I'm done.
Okay, good thing. Yeah, because we've got another public hearing coming in here, we're in 10 minutes late.
You know,
And we're taking your concerns and thank you for coming in and voicing them for us. And we're always struggling when it comes to these bylaws. So.
More or less, I'm saying people is that all these people that are doing parking, they're doing something, they're not doing us any justice. He's degrading us as citizens in this town. I really like to see something happen.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Scott.
You want to address some of the concerns?
Well, we're gonna go, in. I think we're fine with this, we can go through this, but staff for and so we'll go into the public hearing. We got people online for the public hearing.
Two more attendees. Greg DeRoche, Doug have joined as well.
Okay,
Are they speaking or?
well, I'm gonna read out the public hearing opening statement, and then we'll give them the opportunity to zoom in and make their comments. And so as long as they can hear me, I will read the public hearing statement, and then we'll go from there. And I would recommend that Sarah, yeah, standing right there, so we'll move into the public hearing. So, okay, so at this public hearing, council will consider an application for a proposed zoning amendment for property located at 1713 Elliott Road, legally described as Lot 3, Section 6, Township 22, Range 7, W6M KDYD, Plan EPP E32799. The OCP and zoning amendment bylaws number 994 and 995/2021 will be introduced by staff by presenting a brief synopsis of the proposal. Following the introduction, I will open the floor to presentations by the public, beginning with the applicant. At this meeting, the public are invited to make presentations to council, and all persons who believe their interest in the property is affected by the proposed bylaws will be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard, or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the proposed OCP and zoning zoning amendments. Please direct all your comments through the chair. Members of council may, if they wish, ask questions of you following your presentation. However, the main function of council is to listen to the views of the public. It is not the function of council at this hearing to debate the merits of the proposal with individual citizens. Please observe these rules, and if you have any concerns with the manner in which the hearing is conducted, direct your comments to the chairperson. Everyone will be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard at this hearing. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making his or her views known. No one, however, may repeat himself or herself in making a submission. Any person who wishes to present a written submission to council may do so by presenting it to the corporate officer. All submissions will be retained by the corporate officer, and copies of the submissions will be available from the corporate officer at the district office during regular office hours. Your only opportunity to comment on the proposed OCP and zoning amendment will be during the hearings, as members of council are not permitted to receive further submissions after the close of the hearing. Again, please direct your comments through the chair, and I will now request our planner, Sarah Martin, to provide a synopsis of the application and all written correspondence. So Sarah, your comment, please.
Thank you, Chair. The owner developer, Greg Darrow, is intending to buy a The subject property is located at 1713 Elliott Road East, above the Eel River, off the Sicamous Road, and abuts Boys with Toy Storage Facility, which is seen above in this photo. And the district stormwater detention property, which is seen below at 711 Elliott Road. Residential properties can be seen up on the north side of the subject property and down to the left of the subject property. The owner developer proposes to amend the OCP designation from residential medium density to general industrial, and to amend the zoning bylaw from urban single-family residential to I-1A light industrial. Pictured here is a conceptual site plan, which would be subject to a development permit and zoning review process prior to issuance of a building permit, should the proposed amendment bylaws be adopted. The proposed amendments are to permit the development of a wrapped indoor boat and trailer storage facility comprised of 2 large prefabricated buildings. The I-1A zone also permits a mobile home for the owner, operator or caretaker, and dwelling units above the main floor of the building, as well as service and repair establishments. The owner developer has advised that they may also place a mobile home for a caretaker and establish a boat detailing service. The I-1A zone also allows for the following uses: manufacturing or processing, transportation establishments, food and beverage service, accessory retail sales, and home occupation. Pictured here is a similar facility in Lake Country, submitted by the owner developer to illustrate the development concept. The owner proposes two similar buildings with wrappings similar to that shown. The buildings proposed are 15.8 meters, 52 feet in height, and approximately 36.5 by 50 meters, 120 by 165 feet in dimension. Note, however, that the owner developer has indicated that they can remove a tier of storage racking to bring the height into compliance with the proposed zone if necessary. An industrial development permit will be required prior to development to address internal traffic flow, screening, landscaping, and parking requirements. It is noted that fill will be required. About 253 typical dump truck loads approximately. However, the subject property is located greater than 30 meters from the Eagle River. So in terms of bringing in fill, it's not going to impact repairing area. Note that development cost charges in the amount of approximately $38,926 will be required at the time of approval of a building permit for the BCC bylaw. Staff completed a site visit on February 2nd, 2021, and again on March 8th of 2021. Staff also investigated the access to 1961 Sicamous Road on March 8th. An information report has been provided to council regarding external and internal referral comments. The proposed amendment bylaws could be considered for public hearing without any amendments, as the concerns specified in the referral comments can be addressed at the building permit stage. So based on the responses received, staff are satisfied that the proposed amendment bylaws can be considered for public hearing without any amendments, as the concerns specified can be addressed at the building permit stage. External responses have been received from BC Hydro, the CSRD, MOTI, and TELUS. These agencies indicate no concern. However, BC Hydro specifies that this is contingent on the rights not being affected. Responses have not been received from Splatson First Nation, MassCon, or School District 83. Internal responses have been received from law enforcement, fire chief, the building inspector, and operations and engineering. Fire chief noted some concern with the setback of the building along the north lot line. This is a conceptual plan and not the final plans. The building inspector noted that building permits will require submissions from registered qualified professionals to address structural and geotechnical concerns. These concerns will be addressed once final plans have been submitted for the required development and building permits. The engineering technologist and operations manager noted that per the subdivision development servicing bylaw, the developer will be required to design and construct an extension of Hillier Road East and associated infrastructure to an appropriate cul-de-sac. This includes completing the driveway let down to the district property at 1711 Hillier Road East, which contains a storm detention pond and sewer lift station. A servicing agreement, stormwater management plan, and grading plan will also be required. These concerns would be addressed through a subdivision application, which would be required to dedicate the extension of Hillier Road East and the required building permit applications. These will be required to be completed prior to occupancy as conditions of the building permit. Staff are satisfied that the bylaws number 994 and 995, 2021 do not require any amendments, as the concerns can be addressed in subdivision and development permit stages. So public hearing. Signage was posted on the property on February 16th. Advertisements in the Eagle Valley News and Shuswap Market News were February 25th and to March 5th. Notification letters were mailed on February 24th. 5 written responses were received. 2 do not support the proposal and 2 have questions. I will now read out the responses. From Mike and Julie Arnold from Unit 15, 1707 Hillier Road East. We have some concerns about the storage building planned on 1713 Hillier Road. Item 1. They're 52 foot tall, and they may block some view. 2, extra traffic going past residential housing. 3, what about property values? 4, noise at the facility. Thank you for reading our letter. From Brent Rath, from 1961 Solsclass Sicamous Road, to Sicamous Mayor and Council. Hi, my name is Brent Rath. I live at 1961 Solsclass Sicamous Road for the past almost 30 years. The property adjoining the subject property on the east border. It's going to flip back to the airport over here. Oops. Here we go. Here we go again, says Mr. Graff. Mr. Darrow, an out-of-town developer trying to line his pockets, yet doing nothing to improve our community. I had 2 daughters that grew up in Sicamous. Both are looking at having to move out of town because of lack of housing. There is virtually no rental housing and limited properties for sale. Mr. Darrow is wanting to destroy a beautiful place for people to live. It has a public park on the riverfront and is far away from the train tracks. This little town has very little public access to our beautiful Eagle River. If one looks back into the history of the property, you will find 18 acres was originally ALR land and the rest was industrial. In the application to get it out of the ALR, the reasoning was to address the lack of housing. A big portion of that 18 acres has now been used for Boys with Toy storage and destroyed any possibility of me, Mr. Graff, developing a portion of my land and adding an 1,800-foot-long riverfront park and more housing. To me, this is a very poor idea. Soon Sicamous will be known as the boat storage capital of Canada, not the houseboat capital. Not only that, but we are talking massive 5-story buildings. I would say largest in Sicamous. These would be multi-million-dollar buildings to build. With the track record of unfinished large buildings, this could possibly become another unfinished eyesore if the economy changes. Sicamous also has a shortage of industrial land because of prior council rezoning the old industrial land it had. That is now Boys with Toys, bringing virtually no jobs just like this proposal. If any of Mr. Darrow's lands should be zoned for industrial, I would think it would be the ones along the train tracks where no one wants to live. And if so, I don't think more storage would be a good idea. It should be for something industrial that provides good year-round jobs. I personally believe the best use of the subject property is for more of the prefab housing, like the adjacent Hillier Road. Between the subject property and mine, this could provide up to 60 new housing units, creating new neighborhoods with very large riverfront park and improving our community. I have included some pictures. These can be seen in the attachment for the public hearing. I have included some pictures of the prison-like fencing and buildings I get to look at every day now. I would say this has definitely devalued my beautiful waterfront property. It, along with this new proposal, would take away any escape if there were a train derailment, as I have one of the only train crossings in the city. I would hope with any future development, the city would take into account my family's safety, that they would address the land beyond problem and insist that I am provided access from Hillier Road through any new development. Mr. Darrow knew of this when he purchased the property and has been discussed in numerous other council and public forums. In closing, I invite all of you to come see what I'm talking about with your own eyes. I'm available anytime and we can social distance with no problem. Please feel free to give me a call and I will walk around the property. Thank you, Brent W. Graff, 961 Solsclass Road. The next written submission is from Ron and Sharon Craig. And they are the owners of lot 3 at 1707 Hillier Road East. We are homeowners of lot 3 in the strata at 1707 Hillier Road East. There are 15 owners in the subdivision that has now been abandoned by this developer, who is once again proposing to change the zoning bylaw to suit these needs. We all purchased our properties with a development plan in place as to what future development would look like. We strongly protest that lot 1713 rezoned. This developer should be held to the original plans that in place when we all purchased. It is not fair that our properties be devalued by high-rise boat storage on our back doorstep. We pay taxes too. We are a quiet subdivision with 2/3 of the owners being retired. Has a feasibility study been done on the impact to our subdivision beyond subdivision by this proposal, not to mention increased traffic on the current street? We respectfully request that you direct your attention to our valid concerns when discussing this property designation change that is proposed. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Sharon Craig, Secretary Treasurer, Strata, EPS 349. The next submission is from Doug Paddock. He also resides at 1797 Hillier Road East. At Unit 12. Questions I have regarding amendment to OCP and rezoning of 1713 Hillier Road East, I would like to have considered at a public hearing. 1, would rezoning of this property allow multiple uses, or would it only allow the development now being proposed? 2, the map supplied with the proposal shows the development at 1713 starting right where our east property line on 1707 Hillier Road East ends. This appears to allow any access to the district park line that exists there now. What is the plan for public access and parking for this park? 3, how would the proposed development be accessed? Would it be through the now existing Boys with Toys entrance or out the end of the road east? Would the hours of operation be restricted? 4, would this be strictly storage or include maintenance, such as repairs and washing boats? 5, on what part of the property would the proposed structures be located? And is there a district building code as to height and appearance? Thank you. Doug Paddock, 1707 Hillier Road East. Okay, so our last written submission is from Chris Smith, who's an owner at 1707 Hillier Road East. Hi, council. My name is Chris, and I am an owner at 1707 Hillier Road East. I am writing in regard to the proposed lane change from R1A to I1A at 1713 Hillier Road East. I am opposed to the change in zoning from residential to industrial, as I have some valid concerns that I hope council will take into consideration. First and foremost, I purchased at 1707 Hillier Road East in 2016 based on this property being developed into a nice residential neighborhood. The zoning plans have changed multiple times, leaving the neighborhood as a single street strata. Please find the original development plan picture attached. Boys with Toys storage has developed into a massive storage complex, and in my opinion, has outgrown its size limit. By adding a facility for boat and trailer storage, is adding more steel buildings to what should be a residential neighborhood. The people living in this neighborhood should not have to be subjected to being surrounded by steel buildings. Imagine this is your home. Would you want to live in the middle of an industrial park? If the surrounding area is to be zoned industrial, why was it ever zoned for residential in the first place? In my opinion, the industrial zoning should stay on the other side of Sicamous BC Road in the designated industrial park. Other concerns: noise pollution. Boys with Toys has outgrown its size, and adding to it will create more traffic. Environmental, being next to the Eagle River, the area will be prone to gas and oil seepage from boats or other possible pollution. Curb appeal for 1707 Hillier Road, residential neighborhood being surrounded by big steel buildings. Residential property values may decrease. Boys with Toy storage has outgrown its size limit. It should have enough space in the current compound for boat storage if needed. I want to see this property stay zoned R1A residential, but if by chance I1A is approved, please consider a new rendering such as the current proposed rendering of 1713 to be half the size, open storage with no buildings allowed, fence with trees blocking the views of industrial property, the area in between 1707 and 1713 to be developed into a park with paths and trees to add curb appeal. I think I have provided many serious concerns to be considered, and I hope the council will come up with a better plan for this area, as Sicamous has an abundant amount of storage in town, and adding another is not a fit, especially for the proposed area. Please keep it zoned as residential to grow our community and not let residential be mixed with industrial. Regards, Chris. Okay, that was the last written comment. In terms of discussion based on written comments, where further concerns are not raised that would require amendments to the proposed bylaws, staff are satisfied that the proposed bylaws could be considered for third reading. And this would be the recommendation for third reading.
Okay, so we're in a public hearing, and so I'm not sure, but is the applicant on Zoom, Phaedra?
Yes.
I'll give him an opportunity to speak first, and anybody else that would like to comment on this opening statement.
I've given him permission and asked him to unmute. He's still muted on his end. He is unmuted on our end, but he is still.
Comes on and have him introduce himself.
Greg, you need to unmute at your end.
Unmute. Okay, I think it's working. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, hello, it's Greg Darrow, Mayor and Council. And so I listened to Sarah. It was a little bit broken up there, but thank you very much. And the building, looks fairly large in size, but I think we really need to understand where the marketplace is going with storage. I've been at this business, since 2008 when I came to Sicamous. And, the storage, Boys with Toy storage facility for owners has gone really, really well. But boats have got larger. Sicamous is a well-promoted recreational area. And I look at, what the Okanagan has done and the need for storage. People's investments into boats is substantially more than it was 10, 15 years ago. And they're looking for heated covered storage. The Okanagan Valley, because of the value of land, the density required is going up. No different than condos, townhouses, land is at a premium. So they're getting built up. So this rack storage is probably what's unfolding across Canada. It's very big in the Okanagan. For people familiar with, Lake Country, they built this facility there for 500 boats and it's already full. So we've got a similar need in Sicamous to look at what the growth is 1 year from now, 3 years from now, or 5 years from now. People are going to come to these recreational areas, being Sicamous, but they don't want to tow their boat back to Calgary, Vancouver, or even Kelowna. They want to leave it on site, they want it looked after, and they want it secured. So, the location is next to my facility now, and it's really just an expansion of Boys with Toy storage at a newer model that is in 2021. So any questions?
Questions from Councilor Wallace, go ahead.
To the chair, thanks, Greg. This is Councilor Wallace, Jeff. I just have a question. A good chunk of that property is in the floodplain. And so if you were gonna leave it as residential, how many loads of fill would you need to bring it up to the 351 building requirements? And what requirements are for the elevation for your proposed building?
The analysis that was done by Franklin Engineering when we were, looking at suitable there, I can't remember the truckloads, but the cut and fill that Muntz estimated was $736,000 worth of fill to be trucked in. And therefore, the numbers just didn't work. To put it into a residential use, it didn't work. So the areas where the building go are pretty close to level. They would be built up to those two areas, and the remaining lands would be left low. It would be fenced, cleaned up as per your development permit guidelines, but they would not be suitable for buildings because they would be below the flood level of the Eagle River. But they could be used for open storage. You could put a trailer there, and there could be, should the project at 2 Mile be successful there and that 235 slip marina go in, they won't have any place to store boat trailers for that marina. So this could actually accommodate a lot of that offsite storage because people would be leaving their boat in that marina at 2 Mile, and then they can just leave their storage with us. And so the balance of land that the buildings aren't on would just be open storage. And some of these boats that are racked, they take them off the trailer, put the boat in the rack, and then they might have to have the trailer outside. So a lot of that land would be used just for, it would be graded, gravelled, and left for open storage.
Thank you.
All right, other comments or questions? Council Bushel?
Yes, through the chair, Greg, I like the proposal. It suits the property because of just financially, there's not much you can do with that property if you're going to make a go of it with housing. I know the storage facilities in town are full. Tough to get a place right now. The price is going up. So yeah, I think it's a great proposal, and look forward to seeing it go through.
Thanks.
One more, Greg, Councilor Momus, one more. Go ahead.
The chair, Greg, can you, I think that some of the concerns of the neighbors about, and I looked at a place where it's a stark white building up against residential, and it's not very appealing. So when you get to the point of doing a development permit of that, could we have some colors besides white, or maybe some of the Sicamous colors, maybe some of the greens and browns, not the yellows, but.
Jeff, through the development process, that'd be working with staff. I can get any color of metal you want. There's no price change. So, we could make it whatever color suits a community. And it doesn't have to be bright blue, and it doesn't have to be pink or yellow. It could be a neutral brown. And yeah, there's no concerns there, whatever the community wants to see.
Super, thank you.
All right, thank you, Greg. So what I'm going, sorry, one more, Greg, go ahead, Bob.
Thank you, through the chair. Greg, I'm wondering, to help with some of the concerns of folks that wrote letters, they've got legitimate concerns. Do you have, how's the progress on 1705 with the new lots that you've got for housing coming in for Sicamous?
So 17 is that the mobile home park?
Yes.
Well, that's at a standstill with staff dealing with it at the District of Sicamous.
Okay, I was just wondering because some of the concerns are that Sicamous does need housing as well as storage and stuff. So I was just wondering how that was coming along.
It's held up on the second floor of your building.
All right, any other comments or questions for Greg? Okay, I'm not hearing any more from council, so thank you, Greg. I'm going to now ask Pedro in order to open up the floor because this is a public hearing from any other concerns when it comes to the public hearing opening statement. Pedro, thank Greg.
I don't have anyone else requesting.
All right, I'm gonna call first time. Nothing. Second time? Nothing. Okay, for a third time? Still nothing. Okay, I declare this public hearing closed. Thank you. All right, thanks, Sarah, for that, but I don't think you want to sit down yet. We are moving on to the next.
So we're 12 acres, so maybe she does want to take it out of the seat.
Okay, we didn't have a resolution on this
No.
stage. Okay, so now where we are on 12.
12
12A, thank you. All right, so rescind resolution regarding recreation site sole user status. This was brought forward by Councilor Bushel at the last council meeting. Recommendation that council rescind resolution number 21-95 regarding submitting a resolution to the Southern Local Government Association to lobby for recreational user group to have a sole user status on the recreation sites for which they have management plan agreements. I need a mover on this. Councilor Bushel, seconded by Councilor Wallace. Comments or questions on this at this stage? Okay, hearing none. Okay, do you want to comment? Okay, hearing none, call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Carried. All right, so zoning amendment application number 20-078 RZ 1713 Hillier Road, third reading. Recommendation that council gives official community plan amendment bylaw number 994/2021 in bracket 1713 Hillier Road, OCP, and zoning amendment bylaw number 995/2021 in bracket 1713 Hillier Road zoning. Third reading as presented this 10th day of March 2021. I need a mover. Councilor Malmus, seconded by Councilor Bushel. We need to report any more on this and not necessarily because we've gone through it. Okay, I'm going to call the question on the resolution. Do you want it?
I didn't have it.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Through the chair, I appreciate this application. I've seen a few from Mr. Darrow. He's always very clear about his intentions, and I really appreciate that. What's interesting about this particular one is because we're considering a rezone on the basis that it's not actually suitable for what's in our community plan and the zoning. But I don't like that the process is driven by the applicant, not us as a community recognizing that the property might not be zoned for a reasonable use that's not feasible. And for the reason that I think that the rezone would be better if it was driven by us here trying to find the most appropriate zoning for a use that would work for that property. For that reason, I'm opposed to the developer driving it for a specific purchase in this way, specific purpose. And for that reason, I'm not in favor of it. I just want to be clear that overall, I can really see that. I like the proposal, but I think that we should be a little more open about what uses and stuff. Really, sorry, I'm a little bit long-winded, but I think that's my point.
Right, we'll take it, Councilor McKay.
Yeah, you almost jumped to the vote without the discussion, but thank you for the opportunity. I know it's hard, I wouldn't want to be chair. Thank you through the chair. I just, Sicamous is in a position that we don't have a strategic plan, a housing needs assessment in place, and I just, the thought of rezoning property from residential to light industrial, it just doesn't sit right with me. We don't know the impact that has in our community for reduced opportunities for housing. In this report itself, it doesn't mention anything about that there's a park right adjacent to this proposal. When the referrals went out, there was no documentation, no plans or documents letting the people within a 50-meter radius know that there's or any public consultation that we posted on the site mentioning that there's a park adjacent to this proposal, a designated park.
except for the one letter of opposition from the adjacent landowner. And I think this would be a great area to have a housing development with the pathways to the park along the riverfront. I don't think it's fair to the existing residents that they'll have a light industrial traffic driving through their residential zone, not necessarily their neighborhood, but they'll have to drive through their residential zone to get to the light industrial. And I mean, there's a pattern here, and we talked about development earlier for the CSRD referral to change residential to recreational. We have the same developer asking us to change from residential to light industrial. You know, like we don't even have a plan in place about what our housing needs are. So how can we make a decision to change the zone? I support Sicamous as a resort community. I support new business coming to town. I appreciate Greg Darrell investing in our community. I'm not anti-business by any stretch of imagination. I believe in the plan that he has and that it will work. I believe that he'll be full before his building is finished construction. That's not what we're supposed to be deciding here as a community, whether a developer has a good business plan. We're supposed to be deciding what's best for our community. Jobs, yes, but they're temporary. There'll be maybe one trailer on site that'll create one full-time job out of this rezoning of residential to light industrial. So I have nothing against the developer. I appreciate that he has interest in willing to invest in our community. I think his business plan is sound, and I'm sure it will work. But I'm not so sure if that's the best thing for our community. I think this is a great opportunity to keep that residential. We got Broom Bridge coming in. He mentioned how many thousands of dollars for fill. I think the document said 1,800 cubic meters, 1,800 cubic meters. The contractor that's doing the bridge will have 200,000 surplus cubic meters of rock, looking for a place to put it in a couple of years from now. I think he can get that thing filled up for free and be prime residential lot at no cost to the developer. And then it might work as a good business case. So I support Greg Darrell in his efforts, and I think it's a great business plan. I have nothing against that, but my litmus test is what I think is best for the community, and I don't think we have enough information here because we don't have a housing needs assessment plan to make a proper decision. So I won't be supporting this.
Well, through the chair, I think that the owner of the property and his investors have sat on that for 11.5 years now. I asked him a year ago if he was ever going to build houses there as per his original plan. And his rationale was they couldn't absorb and make an affordable housing at a cost of $750,000 per fill. And yes, in 2 years, you might get some from the highway, but that's 2 years from now. I already know there's people bidding on that fill, take it. We had a proposal, possibly for a campground. Maybe the district could consume it all, maybe not, I don't know. But we're dealing today. And I know the tenant that's gonna go in there, Mark from CDOG, is gonna basically manage it. And since he set up at the front of that building, he started off with one mechanic, he now has 3. And from talking to him, he's gonna need 3 more to operate that building. So there's more than one residential person gonna end up there as far as employment goes. And marine mechanics are hard to come by. And so, yes, that's a concern. They need housing for those guys as well. Most businesses in town, Hyde Mountain or Hyde Sawmills, they bought 2 places in the Cedars because they needed accommodations which are not available in town. That's a community problem. Affordable housing is not $350,000. The people that are working on those jobs and polishing boats can't afford a $350,000 house. I think the pad rentals that he was proposing is good, but I don't see asking a guy to wait 2 more years for the possibility of some highway development. That's my personal opinion.
Council Bush, the council chief.
Through the chair, yeah, I understand where Greg's coming from. Developers are, I mean, they're a rare breed. It's hard to make a living being a developer nowadays. There's lots of ups and downs in the market. And this is an undesirable residential piece of property because it needs so much fill. And I feel for the owners that are there, but they got to understand that the Boys for Toy Storage is industrial. It was industrial before they were there. They actually pass through industrial land on the right when they turn off Canby Salt Spot. And that was all industrial, so half of it's still industrial. So they pass through that. So they got to know that there's going to be some kind of industrial property in their residence. And now Mr. Darrow's gone out and now provided another 22 lots coming up. Hopefully he'll get that development permit going. And he is providing affordable housing for the community and also employment, because I know over for Boys for Toys, he has, like you say, he's got 3 mechanics over there. He's got 2 salespeople. He's now there's other businesses over there. There's lots of people working in those buildings over there. And I think it's a good proposal. And he's already come to us on this piece of property before for an RV resort, and that got shot down. And because we listened to the neighbors, but you got to understand, there is industrial land out there, and they're driving by it all the time. And so they got to know they're buying into an industrial area. And in his disclosure, he did indicate that he has the right to change his development plans, and that's what he's doing for the market. So, I think he's, he might not live in our community, but he's here all the time, and he's trying to help the community, and he's done a great job over in Cottonwoods, and he's done a great job with the campground and storage place over there and down the valley. So I think he's doing the right thing. Thank you.
Councilor McCabe, you're next.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. So there were some letters of objection, and they talked about a building being 52 feet high. If this proposal goes through, that would require variance, I believe. Or if we approve it, does that automatically allow a building 52 feet? No, that's a separate variance. So we've had at least 3 objections about from local residents that they're about the size, the height of the building. We've had an objection about industrial traffic going through residential zone. In the referral process, there was no mention about public parking here. I think that was, I'm sorry, I don't need to pick on staff, I usually support staff, but that was omitted in the referral. And no mention about the impact on housing in the referral. How many lots of residential housing are we using? No mention of that anywhere in any report. In one letter from Brent, he suggested there could be up to 60 units of housing, and I never once mentioned affordable housing. I'm not talking about affordable housing. I think this could be high-end housing. You're in front of a park, which is a riverfront. That's a nice area to live in. I had some issues about that retention pond. I mean, it's on public property, and private developers can put his surface water into that. And in the report, it says it has to look at the capacity, and you might have to use that in combination with something else potentially. But why are we letting a private developer use a retention pond in park? Brent mentioned emergency access land beyond. He has a right to cross a railway track right now, but if a train stalls there and he has a health emergency, a heart attack or stroke or something, where's his access to his place? Secondary access, emergency access. Hours of operation, we're discussing on their opposition. Is it a 24/7? Will you have a pad key? You can go in here anytime to go sit in your boat if you want, or a legitimate question. And again, residential surrounded by steel buildings. Yes,
the developer has the right to change his plans, but only council has a right to change the zone.
Okay, good.
And just to clarify, Malcolm, on the pond, actually Greg Darrow built that pond and paid for it, and he also donated the parkland for the park too. So he's the developer and he donated all that, and built the storm, for the stormwater.
Yeah, but it's now parkland.
So the 20 years I've been driving down that road to my place and then across, that used to be a pole yard. And they spent literally thousands of dollars reconditioning that land. And what have they got now? Storage, it's actually, it supports jobs and every one of those units are built. So what does that say when it comes to a business that's in our community? So I know it's difficult and the development of that land, but it is a storage facility. That's what it was designed to do. The case that there is a residential group alongside it that have their homes right there, well, but they're next to, you know, commercial and industrial business. So I don't know, I can't see myself not supporting this because, well, what I've seen as it's transpired over the last 20 years to what it is now from what it was pretty much useless land at one stage. Councilor Moss.
If you went to the picture where it showed the floodlands, one of the reasons that I spent some time talking with Mr. Darrell was because, like, I'm looking at the river and trees. When he builds that building, I'm going to see the building. And I guess through staff, I'm not sure. You got to go down further. So right there, you know, that blue one, where was the blue one, enlarge it. You see that black light across the river with the little point at the river, got that one further to that one. Now, the blue right there, that little line in there, that's my property. I'm looking directly at that, whatever he built. That's what I see out by the with after it's done. And I'm not opposed to it. So.
All right, we got a resolution on the table here. We got quite a debate going on. Any more comments or questions on this? I am going to call a question on the resolution. Okay, not here again, so I'm going to call a question. All those in favor? Opposed? Council Harris and Council McKay are opposed.
I think I've already stated my reasons.
Yeah. And he's giving his reasons. The resolution is carried. Thank you. All right, moving on. District of Sicamous Council remuneration and expenses, bylaw number 997/2021. Recommendation that the District of Sicamous Council remuneration and expenses bylaw number 997/2021 be read at first, second, and third time as presented this 10th day of March 2021. I need a mover on this, Councilor Malma, second by Councilor Harris. Any comments or questions on the resolution? Councilor Malma.
I just want some clarification because I'm looking at exactly that with the public reads that financial implications. One mayor council by not accepting the full remuneration was a 1.9 tax increase and it's reduced to 1.5% tax increase. It's clearly stated up above, but right there, that one line, anybody that was reading that would assume that mayor council's remuneration increase might have caused a 1.91% tax increase. That's not the case. The 1.19 was the overall total tax increase that's proposed.
Correct. So if that is read that way, that's not the intention. It's that the proposed tax increase for the overall was 1.91 as presented. council discussed their remuneration, decided that now was not a good time, so that 1.91 decreased to 1.51. So the actual piece related to council remuneration was a 0.3% tax increase.
Right.
So taxes overall did go down as a result of council not giving themselves an increase, however, all agreeing to give the mayor an additional $5,000. So sorry if that was not communicated clearly from the financial.
Well, I was asked by two people, so you're saying that they specifically stated, so you guys, if we're gonna get a raise, it's gonna cause a 1.9% increase because you didn't take yours, but the mayor's taking his, it's 1.5. That's what they're seeing.
All right.
So I just wanted it to be clear.
Yeah.
That was the overall proposed tax increase was 1.9.
Yeah, which is probably all staff wages. That was a joke.
Don't joke about it.
All right, we'll take any other comments or questions on this one? Yeah, we'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right. Now, correspondence from MP Milano, resolution to support the suicide protection hotline. All right, so if you read this letter in regards to a resolution that's coming forward, that given that the alarming rate of suicide in Canada constitutes a national health crisis, the House call on the government to take immediate action in collaboration with our provinces to establish a national suicide prevention hotline that consolidates all suicide crisis numbers into one easy to remember 3-digit 988 hotline that is accessible to all Canadians. So Mel's asking us to support this. I'm encouraging council to support this as well. Any other comments on this? Okay, so the resolution, so could I have a mover on the resolution? I will second the resolution. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much for that.
And there was a different list this time, just because some of them are quite lengthy documents.
All right, so there's correspondence here. All of this correspondence. Is there any one of these things that council would like to discuss in the correspondence? Right now, we've got Canadian Wildlife Services, Species at Risk Act, UBCM, the Compass, CSRD, Addiction Program, Interior Health, and Rob Fleming. There's the Rob Fleming. That's an interesting document from the Ministry of Transportation in regards to the suspension bridge. You want to comment on that, Mr. McCabe?
No.
Okay. Going through BC Rural Health Network, anybody want to comment? SILGA, the nominating committee, Compass March, third Clash Canada to protect youth from finding nicotine vaping, UBCM resolution, and National Human Trafficking Awareness Day. Any comments on any of these? Go ahead, Jeff. Councilor.
I got a interesting text message this morning that it's in reference to the Species at Risk Act, which for us is the caribou, the backcountry, is trying to close that whole area off. And the group that's trying to do this is doing a fundraiser at our backcountry ski lodges. The guys that go cat skiing and the private ones, the ones that cost you $6,000 a day to use as cat ski to go up there, hill climbing. They're the guys donating to this. Because they have their area quarantined off. I found it absolutely ridiculous that they're supporting the closure of the backcountry to the rest of the world. As it's ours and we got our spot and we're gonna keep it. I thought that absolutely ridiculous. Just a personal opinion. I was talking to the council. This is in the correspondence section. So
Thank you, Council Thomas, I totally agree. All right, you got comments on any of the correspondence?
No, I agree with Jeff.
All right. Recommendation is the regular council meeting for March 2024, 2021 be adjourned. Moved by Councilor Long, second by Councilor Harris, all in favor? We're out of here.
ha.
I clearly won the bet.
Did you win?
Are we off now?
Oh, it's 7
Good
o'clock.
night, Mr. Al.
I believe I was closest. At 7:32. Is that also on record?